Hey everyone, we're just doing a check to see if Dr. Jodi Wishnia can jump on. Hope everyone's well today. Hey Ariana. Hey Jodi. Yes. Okay, cool. You should be coming through now, Jodi. Hey.
Hi. Checking the picture. Too bright.
Yes. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Well, at least we managed to get this working quite
Yeah.
quickly. Um, yeah, I think, can you hear me clearly on your side?
I can. I can. Should I try and get better light?
If you want, yeah, you can, because we've still got a few minutes.
So that's fine. Just want to see if I can get better light. I think that's worse. Yeah, maybe that's better.
I think that's perfect. And you know, it's your first Instagram live, so I mean, you're just going on the whim, but it's awesome that we get to be a part of your first Instagram live, and I just thank you so much for your time. I just wanted to obviously introduce myself. My name's Daniel Marsh. I'm the founder and director of Marsh Fidelity. We're a business that focuses on estate planning, will drafting, and formation of trusts. Today we're joined by Dr. Jodi Wishnia, who's the co-founder of Zazen Respite Care, palliative care home. And I have actually stayed at the guest lodge, which accompanies your home. And you know what, the one thing that I remember is how peaceful that space felt and how tranquil just driving in those gates with that garden and the trees and like I'll never forget. It's like one of those places you go to that I'll never forget. And you know what's beautiful is that our team, like I said, are actually coming to stay at the guest lodge
Yeah.
in September. So we look forward to being lifelong partners in terms of like supporting you guys wherever we can. And I thought, you know what, just to have an Instagram live with someone like you who's done such incredible work since you started, for us is a privilege, and I'm just grateful that you could make time for us this morning. So, Jodi, if you just wanted to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about Zazen, and we can just go from there.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me, and yeah, just wanting to support Zazen. Like,
Yeah.
really appreciate it. So I am Jodi Wishnia. I'm one of the two co-founders of Zazen. The other co-founder is Dr. Jessny Kiston. Dr. Jess is a palliative medicine specialist, and in 2022 she was finishing her specialization in palliative medicine. I finished my PhD in 2021, and I had done my PhD with the intention of becoming a hospital CEO. That's always what I wanted to do. I love health systems. I love people. I love healthcare.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were just on a bit of a holiday and suddenly realized that actually the answer was like really clear, that we needed to start our own sort of palliative care center where
Sure.
Jeff could be the palliative medicine specialist and I could
Yeah.
run it and kind of join our skills in that way.
Have you had
Our
you dealt with had you dealt with end of life patients that inspired you to see that there's a space that needs care for these people?
Yeah, I think anyone who'd worked in healthcare. So I started out as an occupational therapist. So I did
Yeah.
some years, obviously in state and my community service. Jess has obviously done several years as a doctor. And I think whether it's public or private, you see end of life all the time.
Yeah.
I think part of the struggle in a hospital setting is that it's not geared for end of life care.
Yeah.
So, people often don't get the time that they need with their loved ones. It's a
Yes.
noisy environment. You are
Yes.
woken every 2 hours for blood pressure and
Yeah.
bloods, even though actually there's nothing more really you can do about that. And I think,
Different people coming in and out of your space.
exactly, exactly. Just constant noise, really.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of research that shows that, at the end of someone's life, all of their senses become really heightened. So it's
Sure.
irritating, if you're in a hospital for a admission, it's already irritating. But, one can't imagine if all your senses are heightened, your body is really going through something, and then you're being
Yeah.
woken up every morning, bright lights every 2 hours, blood pressure cuff, it's tight, so
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Visiting hours are obviously very limited, so you
Yeah.
can't be with the ones that you love, but it's also
Yes.
difficult sometimes to look after people at home. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think both of us have had quite deep experience of, patients who deserve better, who
Yeah.
deserve better end of life care. And even,
Yeah.
palliative care is not only end of life care, it's from the diagnosis of a serious illness. And I
Yes.
think even from that moment to kind of be able to opt out of some of the curative spaces and
Yeah.
rather receive your care and support in a peaceful environment, in an
Sure.
environment that's oriented to
Yeah.
palliative care, quality of life, joy.
Yeah.
It changes, your last however long you have, months,
Yeah.
years, whatever it is.
Exactly. And do you know what's incredible, Jody, is that I didn't even know that that was your core mission because I just read about. But like I said, when I drove in to stay there, I immediately felt peaceful, not as someone who has a terminal illness, but just as
Mm,
someone visiting. So
yeah,
it's amazing how your vision has aligned into reality in that sense. Like, the trees and the birds and like
yeah,
even the story of the old farmhouse there is just incredible. And I mean, a lot of planning goes into birth. When we
yeah,
expect life to come, there's so much planning, so much
yeah,
care. But what we find on our side as well, that sometimes when someone gets a terminal illness, it's like, okay, well, where can we put them? Or there's not as much care on the death side of stuff as there is to bringing you life. And I think like
totally.
courses and initiatives like you guys have just add so much value, not only to the patient, but also to the family. Because I also
Mm.
read that three of your missions are to provide respite to your patients, to their loved ones, and to your staff, which I thought was so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've actually added a fourth fairly recently, which is also respite for home-based palliative care teams. So
Cool.
many of our patients are referred by palliative medicine doctors and nurses
Yeah.
working in the homes. And
Yes.
sometimes it becomes extremely difficult to continue to provide quality care in the home for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
And actually to be able to send to us knowing that it's a palliative environment, they're going to be cared for, there's good quality clinical care, the carers are good, actually provides those health professionals
Yeah.
with so much respite as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there really is a lot of value for
Yeah.
not just the patient, like everyone, the whole community
Exactly.
around the patient. And I think part of it is we were so lucky. I can tell you so many crazy stories about how
Yeah.
Zazen started, but
Yeah.
one of them is how we found the lodge because I think we were planning on being in a house, a freestanding
Yeah.
house. I don't know, we were a bit
And the
naive about
lodge is
how we
like
could get
tucked
that.
away as well, like in
Yeah,
the middle of this busy place. It's a tucked away little corner.
totally, totally, and it's peaceful and it's beautiful, and all the trees, as you say, and the birds. I mean, we couldn't
So
have
how
dreamed
did
it
you
up
find it,
better.
Jody? Just we've got a little bit of time, but how did you
Yeah.
find that lodge?
It's crazy. We had been let down 2 weeks before by the place we were going to rent. Jess and I were
Yes.
just like so upset.
Yes.
There was another palliative medicine doctor who was running his outpatient practice from the lodge,
Yes.
and he was leaving. And Anne is the owner of Hospitality Lodges, and he
Yes.
said to us, "We have to talk to Anne. She wants to do something So Jess met with her first, and then Jess said, "No, got to meet with Jodi." And
Yeah.
honestly, the values alignment between
Yeah.
Zazen and Anne and Hospitality Lodges and just the way that that guest lodge runs. I mean, you'll know as a normal guest, the
Yeah.
orientation is so friendly and kind and peaceful. Like
Yeah.
it was just meant to be. I can't
Yeah.
think of
And
any other.
like when you have a vision and you have a purpose, things just start to align. And
Yeah,
that's when you kind of know that you've chosen the right direction when stuff like this at the beginning just
yeah,
aligns. And I mean, and what we really find on our side, like as professional estate planners and people who draft wills and actually administer estates, is that education is an amazing way to provide clarity to people, and that is a way that we can practice kindness. So I love
Totally.
the fact that you guys are both doctors in the field where this is so focused. And I mean, I'm sure that from your education point, it's opened up your mind, and now you're sharing that with the people that are in your atmosphere as well.
Absolutely. I mean, when I tell you I didn't know much about living wills, powers of attorney,
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know any of that stuff, right? And
Yes.
now we deal with it on a daily basis. We get
Yes.
to show families, like, or explain to them why it's important to put it in place right at the beginning of a serious illness rather than
Yes.
all the way at the end when actually we've had so many, instances where the paperwork has been left all the
Sorry, Jody. It's just I think it's lagging on your end. Hoping that you'll come back on. Sorry, guys. Jody, you back? Yeah, you back. Yeah, you're
Sorry, we
back.
had like no electricity for
Oh my word! So you're just like properly hustling this morning. Well, if you start your Instagram live with no electricity, our test yesterday didn't work successfully. But do you know what? We've started it. So I know you're talking about like living wills, how important they are, and I agree.
yeah,
But you know what the thing is, Jody, is that that's often the thing is that we shouldn't actually have a terminal illness motivate how we plan for our
yeah,
state or our death. So I think,
exactly.
like, do you know how they do prenatal courses? We were with another lady who said we should
If
also
we stick
have
to
death courses. Like, have a 5 week
yes,
course where you cover each topic, and let's invite
yes,
people and let's do workshops about it. Because the prenatal courses are fully booked when you're expecting
yeah,
life. But the thing is, you know what? Like, it's also about providing closure correctly to people that are going to die and
yeah,
their families. So,
yeah,
like often people say a will isn't that powerful. Well, in South Africa, it's one of the most powerful documents that you'll ever have because there's
yeah,
freedom of testation in South Africa. So, whatever you say or don't say can implicate those people that you love so much. So, I
yeah,
mean, just the foundation of estate planning is just have a current, up to date will. So you can do your will today, but every year or so, you must always
yeah.
check on your will. And also, it empowers you to say, this is actually an act of love and service to the people that I'm going to
Totally.
leave behind.
Totally, totally. And I feel like we say that kind of ad nauseum at Zazen, every plan you put in place,
Yeah,
every piece of paper that explains what you want makes your
yeah,
loved one's lives so much easier so that
yeah.
they can just grieve. They don't have to
Yes,
worry about all the other admin. And I think we underestimate how much paperwork is
yeah.
around death and
There's
dying. I
so
think that's
much.
the other thing. It's a lot.
Yeah,
Actually, if we get a head start on that, so we have one of our ex-patients' daughter
yes,
who had like a really moving experience with her mom because her mom hadn't really planned very well.
yeah,
And so they were busy doing a lot of admin and lawyer stuff, in her mom's last sort of week to 10 days of life. And she's actually
yeah,
developing a little book, like a
yes.
life file kind of
Ah,
thing
sweet.
for families, to
Yes,
say, you need these kind of conversations. You need these documents. You need to know where the
yeah,
passwords are. You need to know, like what kind of funeral mom wanted, who are her
yeah.
best friends, like, and that is just really, honestly, it is an act of love. I really think
Yeah,
so.
and also what I try and encourage our clients is that yes, you must definitely consult with a professional to make sure your will is legally sound. Because, for example, someone might buy a P&A will and handwrite with their wishes,
Yeah,
but then when you die, the master says, "Well, we need an affidavit to prove that was their handwriting." That's another thing now that you wouldn't have to do if you had a proper will. And then you
100%.
find out maybe, oh, the sister who's an heir wrote in the will. Well, then they're excluded because you're not allowed to write in someone
Yeah,
else's will. So small
yeah,
stuff like that. But what I also say is let's try and make our wills show that Daniel Marsh or Jody wrote this will.
yeah,
That their signature is somewhere in that document.
yeah.
Because wills are usually like really formal and they have to be, but they should have something personal in there. Like
Mm.
I have
Oh, Christ. I've lost you. There we go. Sorry, you're
Yeah,
back.
okay, cool. Yeah, so basically what I also encourage is like put something in your will to say like for me it was I have a watch that I saved up for. I want my son to use it and enjoy it, and when he wears it, he must maybe think about me in it. So just
Yes.
something small and personal, because remember, a will is one of the last documents your family will ever have of yours to
Yeah.
read. And if you appoint the right professionals to help it, the estate isn't this horrible memory. A
Yeah.
lot of
Yeah,
people say,
exactly.
oh, my mom's estate or my dad's estate was so hurtful. And
Yeah.
that carries on for years. So I think having a good will in place, having a living will, it's also important, I think, like, if you've got a terminal diagnosis, you must look at your marriage regime because there's benefits if you married. Like, for example, if you have most of the wealth in your name, but you married, you can transfer basically all your money to a surviving spouse without tax consequences. But
Mm.
if you're not married and you give all of your wealth, like we met with a lady last week who got a terminal diagnosis, but she's got 2 kids. So she wanted to just transfer everything to the kids. But the problem is donations, taxes levied on
Yeah.
everything over 100,000 Rand. So what we recommend is just put it in your will because 3.5 million is exempt and then they don't have the
Yeah.
tax consequence. So just
Mm.
small movements like that and not to rush.
Yeah.
So let's secure ourselves in safe spaces, like
Yeah.
going to a respite care, getting a professional executor to
Exactly.
advise. It's small
Exactly.
steps like that will give you peace of mind. So I think there's a lot of planning that goes into it. But I wanted to ask you, if I, for example, had got a terminal diagnosis and I was told I have 6 months to live, and I came and sat down with you, what would you advise are the best steps to make, and how would your home cater for my needs and my family's needs?
Yeah, so we do two types of stays. So we of course do end of life care, which is last sort of 2 to 4 weeks of life. But we also do what's called a respite stay, and that's also about 2 weeks, 1 to 2 weeks. And in that time, it can be respite for pain and symptom control. It can be respite to help your family reorient to this news
Because
and
it's a big
what's
shock, eh?
happening.
It's
It's a
like
big shock.
earth moving.
Exactly. And like also to help you plan, right? So that we can link you to a palliative team. Because often
Yes.
there's so few palliative medicine teams, even in
Yeah.
Gauteng,
Yeah.
that people can't just come see you tomorrow. And
No.
so what we can do is often we can bring them to us for a week or two. They get sort of started on a palliative program, and then we refer to a home-based team so that they have
Yes.
continuity of care.
Yeah.
And that's where we really start. So one of the first documents we do is called an Advanced Health Directive. And that Advanced Health Directive is really about your wishes around life prolonging measures. So
Yeah.
for example, if there is nothing more that we can do in terms of curing your particular condition,
Yes.
what you want to be able to tell your family is either I want to be on a ventilator or I don't. I want life
Yeah.
support or I
Yeah.
don't. I want to
Yes.
trachea, all of these decisions that in the moment, once you're in the hospital, it's very hard to tell a clinician not to put a trachea in or not to put you on a vent. But if you've had that conversation with your family and they know your wishes,
Yeah.
then the family is able to say to that clinician, look, this is a palliative patient. We know that we can't reverse what's going
Yes.
on. And so
Yes.
actually her wishes were no life prolonging measures if there's no quality of life attached. So of
Sure.
course, if you're going to buy more time with quality, absolutely do the
Yeah.
things. But
Yeah.
I think what often happens is you haven't had that conversation. You land up going to hospital in an emergency situation.
Yeah.
Person lands up on a vent. They have
Yeah.
no quality of life at all. And now the family don't know what to do. You're sitting with a long-term ventilated patient
Sure.
where you didn't know. Do they want
Yes.
to withdraw? Do they want to stay? What are their
And
beliefs?
then
So
now the
yeah,
responsibility is your loved ones, and they
that's
don't
it.
know because they're
They don't
not
know.
you.
And there is something called palliative withdrawal, which
Yeah.
we do at Zazen, but it's a very, very structured process, and there must be
Yes.
a living will in place. We cannot do it without a living will because we
Yeah.
don't know what you wanted, and
Yes.
we can't do it if we don't know. So I think, right at the diagnosis of a
Yeah.
terminal illness or a
It's,
serious advanced illness, you want to
yeah.
be having conversations about what are your wishes, what have you got to wrap up in your will? Who is
Yeah.
getting what? Unfortunately, we see it all the time where families are stressing about,
Yeah.
I thought I was getting the house. Why are you getting the house? And
Yes.
daughter, and it's just, there's a lot. And I think the more that is written down, the more that is planned,
Yeah.
the easier the process becomes for everyone.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I mean, you know, there's also things that people may not even think they have rights to. For example, if you're employed at a company, you should also ask, like, if I have a terminal illness, maybe before you even get anything like that, just ask your employer, if I were to get a terminal diagnosis, is there any benefit? Will you be
Yeah,
able to help with respite? Can you
yeah,
contribute towards a palliative home? Or if they say no, then you know. But a
yeah,
lot of people don't even know those rights. But I think, you know, some employers have incentives like retirement annuities. They even have
mm,
life cover incentives for staff. So if a staff member is due to die, you know, with some life covers, they pay out in advance
yeah,
if they know you've got a terminal illness. So that's also important to keep in mind. If you've got a life cover in place, ask your life cover people as well. Guys, if I get a terminal illness, will you prepay so I can cover medical costs? You
yeah.
know, something small like that will give you a lot of peace of mind. And then you've got finances to actually go to an amazing respite care to end your life well. So when we
Exactly.
have life cover as well, my view is that it's not only for when we die, it's also to maybe protect us if we
Yes,
have a terminal diagnosis. So we must check on that.
for sure.
Okay.
And it is expensive. Like, so,
Yeah.
Zazen, unfortunately, there's only one medical aid that pays for respite care in a palliative
Sure.
care center. All
Yeah.
the other medical aids only pay for end of life care. So that's already, if you need respite and
Yeah.
you are on a medical aid, but you're not on the one that sees it as valuable, you're paying out of pocket, which is
Sure.
hard.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're not on a medical aid, all of us, all the palliative care centers across the country do provide free at point of care service for
Yeah.
uninsured patients if they meet the means test.
Sorry,
But
Jody,
yes,
am I correct in saying you're a non-profit?
yes,
So people
definitely, yeah,
can donate to help
yes,
people get care. That's also
exactly.
amazing. That's also
Exactly. So
amazing.
we often, all of our fundraising generally is around pooling money so that we can accept people who also don't have medical aid,
Yes,
or
yes,
they're on a medical aid that doesn't cover, they desperately need the help, they can't
yeah,
afford to pay out of pocket because,
yes,
as you say, not everyone has planned
yeah,
for this type of care, and it is expensive. It's a medical facility, we've got
exactly.
nurses
And
and
there's
doctors
proper
and
like
carers. And,
professionals. And
yeah,
when I went there, some of the meals are better than lodge meals. Like that, the
yeah,
patients get. Like I was seeing like the meals, and I was like, oh my word, that's so incredible. Because
yeah,
like you said, it's all the senses are heightened. So
yeah,
like having a peaceful environment, having good food, having
exactly.
stillness, quietness. I
Yeah.
mean, it all adds to the value of the way that you leave this earth.
Absolutely. And we always say that I believe it's our care that is the most important, but one cannot take away from the environment that we're in how important
Yeah,
that has been
sure.
to the care that we've been able to provide, like the
Yeah,
setting, the space. It really
yeah.
does make a difference, it really does.
And I wanted to also ask you, I love this logo and I
Yes.
love it's just, I kind of could look at it for a couple of like maybe 15, 10 minutes because I mean, it's like circles, but it's different sizes of circles. Could you
Yeah.
explain what motivated your logo design?
Yeah, so a big part of dreaming about Zazen was inspired by this trip to Cozy Forest Lodge.
Yeah,
And we were just surrounded by these stunning, stunning tall trees.
yes,
And really, like, trees have a lot of beautiful, like, symbology, around
yeah,
providing shade and
yeah,
support. And so when we started, we had this idea of having a logo of a tree with some
yeah,
people sitting under it. And that was our
yeah,
first, we just generated it on AI, like whatever.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then we got a graphic designer in, and we landed up with that, which is actually meant to be the tree rings
yes.
inside inside
Oh,
the
sure, that's cool.
trunk.
Yeah,
And what I love about it is one, like obviously the number of tree rings symbolizes aging, and palliative
yes,
care is not only for the aged, but it is a large portion. As we get
yeah,
older, unfortunately, we do become sicker. It is part of
yes,
the life cycle. I
yeah,
think the other thing that I love about it is it's kind of like a maze. So,
yeah,
you're kind of you're following around in this very kind of Zen
yes,
circle, hopefully providing some comfort, like a walking meditation kind of
yeah.
spirit. And the terminology Zazen is a form of seated meditation that you do or meant to do during times of distress. And I
Yeah,
actually read about it in a book called Tale for the Time Being, which is an
yeah,
amazing book.
yeah,
And yeah, I felt like the symbol of having this kind of practice that you can
yeah,
do
yeah,
during times of distress, vulnerability, suffering, that can ground you, that can provide you with some peace amongst the storm.
yes.
Really all kind of spoke to the values we wanted for Zazen.
I mean, do you know what's incredible is that like our whole logo is also motivated around a tree.
Yes, I
So
saw
that's
that.
our logo
It's
there,
stunning. Yeah.
and as you
Very.
know, like our one was motivated by the mangroves, and
Mm,
how their rooting systems actually partner together to protect coastlines from from turbulent seas.
yes.
They provide nurseries for new life.
Mm,
They are safe havens. So it's
yeah.
incredible how like yours is linked to a tree, but ours is also linked to
Yeah.
like the mangrove forest. And you know
Totally.
what's like one of the things that I do. Sorry, I'm just fixing this in my spare time is I cultivate bonsai trees.
Oh, cool.
And I have some bonsais that are double my age. I've got like an 85-year-old paper
Yeah.
bark. And one of the things that I read about the Japanese culture is that they actually give bonsai trees as a legacy gift. So
Mm,
in one family, this bonsai had been passed on for 1,500 years. And
wow.
what's special about that is when you're caring for the tree, you know that your great 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 granddad also once cut this tree, also once cared for the way that it has
Yeah.
its well being. And I think that's also part of how we can end our lives well, is we
Mm,
create memories or legacies that we can hand down because bringing people to life in moments when they're no longer here is so empowering. And
totally.
I also designed a book, I don't know if I have it here, called the Family Remembrance Book.
Mm,
And that book there is just a journal that we write to be read. So it's not a
mm,
private journal. And what inspired me about that was I lost my mom when I was quite young. I've actually got a painting of her here. So I also bring things back to life. But I was going through a hard time. A book of hers, and she had her handwriting in it, and she was talking about how like she got through a tough day, and in
mm,
that moment it brought her back to life for me, and it
yeah.
really gave me such strength. So I
Mm,
think about like we pass on legacies that maybe we can know that it will
yeah.
bring us back to life in those moments, and things like having a little life file and building it, like it's a whole holistic experience. That's the thing, is like that's where we align as businesses, because I don't just want to do a will and then administer an estate. I want to
Mm,
help a family through that whole journey. Even
yeah.
sometimes if the family say, I don't know what Daniel did, but I'm grateful. I don't know what Leanne did, Ariana, Londiwe, like anyone from our team. But I just felt that there was not that weight on me. And I'm
Yeah.
thankful for that. And I think
Yeah.
that that's what you guys do, because, you know, like from your experience, it's just like everything you're doing kind of aligns with where you are at the moment,
Mm,
and that should inspire you, but also your team. And like I said, with the branding, people think, oh, let's just design a logo. But if you've
yeah.
actually got thought into it, it actually becomes a whole thing that you can connect to.
Totally. Absolutely. And I think, I get asked, what does Zazen mean all the time? Zazen
Yeah.
gets called all sorts of things. Zazen, but it doesn't matter, because all of it enters into this conversation about what is Zazen. And it doesn't matter if you're into meditation or not, if you want to
Yes.
pray, it doesn't matter to us. Like, we're non-denominational. I think
Yeah.
the point is that it enters a conversation about what will bring you some peace in this
Yo.
very difficult time, and whatever
Exactly.
that is, we want to make that possible for you.
Yeah. I mean, that's so like I'm also inspired. Like I was so amazed at like what you're sharing today. I felt as someone who hadn't, I didn't even know it was a respite home when I booked. And then when I was in there, I was like, yo, this place is so peaceful. And then when I found out it was that, I was just like, something special is going on here. And I think if outsiders are feeling that, that means that you guys
Yeah,
are actually having impact. And the fact
thank
that we
you.
can have Instagram lives like this, where we've only met kind of once through
Yeah.
I was a guest, and you see how like paths like connect with each other. But I mean, another thing I wanted to just ask you on the respite side is, how have you found to help loved ones of someone who's been diagnosed terminally? Like, say there's a daughter or a son that is very close to mom or dad, they've got this diagnosis. What can they do to help them process it as well?
Yeah. So the core, there's many people who are involved in palliative care, but the core team for a palliative care team is the palliative medicine doctor, the palliative nurse, and the social worker.
Yeah.
And the social worker is like the unsung hero of the palliative care team. I mean, she or he is the person who that family then, has sessions with. They walk the family through all the emotions of what, the social worker is often the one who's asking, what's your estate planning? Do you have a will? They're the ones who broach those conversations around planning for what will come next. And so, so definitely the social worker. Every single patient that comes to Zazen, we really try and connect to a social worker. It's pretty crucial. And then the other thing is that our particular place, what we're really lucky with, because we're in this guest lodge, is that we've got additional rooms that are non-patient rooms. And so the family can stay with. They can stay in the room with the patient, or they can book into the lodge as a normal guest. And then some people, they would have loved to be at home, but it's just not possible. And then we can make Zazen feel as much, what is home? Home is your loved ones, wherever that is. And so if your loved ones are with you, they're staying with you, you still see them every day, every night, you sleep next to them, then actually Zazen doesn't feel like just some facility that you're in. It feels like your bedroom, your home, and I think that makes a big difference in terms of how we kind of support the psychosocial and emotional parts of having a palliative diagnosis.
And also just a peace of mind knowing you have professional support if there's an emergency. Because often towards the end of life, there's very strong emergencies that can happen, but you've got a professional team right there.
Exactly.
So that helps a lot.
And also to plan, right? So often we are able to tell people, here's what we think is going to happen. Let's talk about how we're going to deal with it. Let's talk about what our plan is. Okay, we're not panicking anymore when that emergency happens, because we prepared for it. Someone explained what's going to happen. That we know the Zazen team is going to make sure mom or dad or brother is not distressed. And that's all people really care about. They just want to know that their loved one is safe, not distressed, not suffering. And I think that, in a way similar to what you were describing in the work that you do, a lot of our work is taking away the admin. From families, we'll do it for you. Let us walk you through it. And then just leave us to do, you just be the loved one. That's all you need to do right now. You don't have to worry about giving meds or worrying, should I go to the hospital or shouldn't I? Like, we're going to make decisions for you, knowing what the wishes are,
Sure. That's also, like one of the tough ones that we've seen happen is, say, like, it's a young parent that gets a terminal diagnosis, but they've got a young child. Like some of the stuff that I've read about that can help is, your support in that situation, I think, would be completely invaluable. Because you're young, you haven't really lived your full life, you've got a child, and I think like spaces like yours are almost essential for situations like that. Is there any sort of advice that you could give just on the surface to someone who's young, who's been terminally diagnosed and has a young child?
I think even more so, here's where you want to be planning as soon as possible, right? Because the spouse that's left behind with that child or children, it is tough. They are going to be grieving. They're going to be looking after their loved one who is sick. They're going to have a young baby. We've seen it a couple of times at Zazen. It's hard. And, I think that in those situations, if at least the parent who has the terminal diagnosis has an opportunity to say, I want to make some videos for my child for their 16th, 21st, whatever, but I know I'm not going to be there. Or I'm going to write in that journal. Or can we talk about schools, even though this child is one? Can I be part of that conversation? And because they're being looked after, they have space for that conversation. But if you're at home, you're panicking, you don't have full-time care, and you are in distress, there's no time to talk about that stuff, Yeah, and most people prefer to be at home, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I think there are times in the palliative journey where home is just not possible,
Yeah.
or when you need just a short stint, to get your ducks in a row, to reorient, to get
To
the right news,
journal.
to journal, to have some space, to do whatever you want to do. And so I do think that, a lot of inpatient palliative care centers like ours have closed down over the last 5 to 10 years
Yeah.
because they're very expensive to run. It's a
Yeah.
full healthcare team,
Yeah.
but we have only been open for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
We've helped over 200 patients already,
Sure.
and it just shows you there is a need. This
Massive
work is
need.
important, it's needed, and it,
Yeah.
it deserves to be funded, whether that's by
Yeah.
medical aids or whatever, but it is important. It's important work, and
Yeah.
I think it's valuable.
Well, do you know, like one of the things that I find in a lot of wills that we draft is that there isn't often a bequest to a non-profit organization.
Mm,
But sometimes we can make room for that, even if it's
yeah,
R1,000.
yeah,
Okay, it makes a difference.
yeah,
So, and also if you're very wealthy, it reduces your tax liability. So rather pay to a non-profit
yeah,
like Zazen than
yes.
having to pay to like SARS, for example. So I mean, in my will as well, I also updated and I put a small section there to say I need this to go to a non-profit that I support. And
Yes,
I mean, we have to start with ourselves and say to ourselves, what has moved me in my life? And
yes,
maybe I can put R1,000 to them in my
yes,
will. Okay, because I don't
100%.
see it often enough, to be honest. And I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying it can help
Yeah,
maybe an environment that supported you in your life. It doesn't even
totally,
need to be 1,000. It can be 500. And you know
totally.
what? That sort of gift is amazing because you can't get a thank you for it.
Yeah,
They just have to receive it and do with it what you thought would happen. So I mean, that's also a thing that can help with the fundraising. But if someone just wanted to make a donation to
yeah.
Zazen, how do they do that?
Yeah, so they can be in touch on our website. There's links there. Our banking
Yeah,
details are there. They can also be in touch directly with myself. We have a beautiful community, even in our short time, who have
yeah,
donated quite substantially. Recently, one of our ex-patients family donated a hospital bed, which
sure.
sounds like, but it's amazing because for us, a
Yeah,
hospital bed is expensive. It's
they're
about
not
30
cheap.
to 40,000 rand.
Yeah,
So, we rent a lot of our beds still because
yes,
it's expensive. So those kind of gifts, I mean, it lasts, right?
yeah,
That's something that will be at Zazen for years and years and years. A beautiful
yes,
gift.
yes,
Yeah, we know a lot of the other palliative care centers that have been around for decades often get bequests. So they'll
yeah,
get a whole house, that then they sell. It's amazing. People are
yes,
incredibly generous.
yes,
And so, yeah, I think, whether it's 20 Rand, 200 Rand, 200,000 Rand, the palliative care centers all around the country value it so much because
yeah,
every little bit allows us to just expand coverage a little bit more, allows us to
yes,
help more people who don't have medical aid, can't afford it. This is a service that costs a lot to run, but
yeah,
shouldn't be only for those who can afford, and
yes,
we all feel
exactly.
very passionate about that it should actually be a public health service. It isn't really at the
No,
moment.
and like even
Yeah,
hospices are so full that they can't actually accept
yeah,
anyone else because they're so packed. Or
yeah.
like the private ones, you say there's not a lot of people have access to. But I think that's all about the planning side because
Mm,
someone might have worked their whole life, but maybe they didn't have a cover or medical aid that provides for that.
that's
Because
it.
we often
Yeah.
never think it will happen to us, but
That's it, hey. And I'm quite lucky. My dad is a financial advisor, so I feel like
nice.
from two, my dad was telling me about all of these things. But not everyone has that, and so
Yes,
I think we underestimate how invincible we all feel, and we all
yes,
think, even in our space, we see palliative patients all the time, and still, I don't think every day what will happen if me or my
yeah,
loved one is diagnosed. You still can have some distance
yes,
and feel somehow like, yeah, a little bit invincible,
yeah,
because it's hard to wrap your head around what does that mean if I suddenly can't work for
yes.
a year or 2 years. Is my income protector enough? Do I have income protector?
Protector.
What happens to my partner?
Yes.
Will they have a roof over their head? I don't know. There's all these questions that I think we don't consider because, especially when we're
Yeah.
young, we think it's not important or not for now.
I think, you know, like if you guys were to do a course or something where, I don't know what sort of charity initiatives you do, because I know life is so hectic, you know, to like organize an event, but I think events can also help get
Hopefully.
exposure and financial income donations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you have any events that you're starting? I see you do a run or something. I'm not
Yes,
sure if that looks really
exactly.
cool.
Yeah, so we have our annual fun run. It's on
Yeah.
World Palliative Care Day, which I think
Yes.
this year is the 14th of October. So we'll do it on the Saturday.
Yeah.
It's around Zazen. It's in the Sunninghill, Gauteng
Yes.
area. We
Yes.
ask people to contribute like a minimum of 50 Rand to join the race. And then
Yeah.
if you want to, contribute more towards Zazen, then that's wonderful.
Sure. That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, last year it was really amazing. I think we
Yeah.
fundraised over 80,000 Rand from our first
Oh,
fun run, and we were
it's
10 months old. I mean, it's so
yes.
crazy. So,
Wow.
our experience of our community, of people's support for palliative care is that they get it, they want to help.
Yeah.
People's means are different, but they showed up for us. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, if you're in the Sunninghill area around or Joburg around
Yeah.
October, then look out for our fun run because,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll be doing it again. And we kind of only do one sort of big annual fundraiser at this point. As you say, it takes a lot of energy and time and money to
Yeah.
host a fundraiser. So you've got to be
Yeah.
wise about
Yeah.
when you do that. And we've kind of made the decision that Zazen, for Jess and I, we are health systems people, and so it's never been only about Zazen. It's been
Yeah.
about increasing access to palliative care, and that means that we care about all the palliative care centres, all the hospices, all the
Yeah.
palliative medicine doctors. And so for us to do our fundraiser on World Palliative Care Day feels fitting because it's not
Yeah.
only about Zazen, it's about advocating for awareness of the value of palliative care, whether you come to Zazen or you go to East Rand Palliative Care Centre or you go to Stepping Stone Hospice, doesn't
Yeah.
matter, as long as there's something that's available for you.
And I mean, I'm sure that you see incredibly highlighted the power of a community when something hard like this happens and how people pull together. And I mean,
Absolutely.
like we often don't actually appreciate how valuable being a community is.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's what's actually progressed us in life is our
Yeah.
communities. We can never do anything alone.
That's it. I think that's it. And I think, in this society and the way life is sort of structured at the moment, it feels so individualistic. Everything is just,
Yes,
and then Zazen has been this really amazing reminder that actually like society functions in community. That's how we function best. We look
exactly.
after our elders, we look after our family, we look after our neighbor
Yeah.
because they're our neighbor and we know they're alone. It's
The old
just,
school days.
yeah,
When
it's
you
really,
move into a place and the neighbors would bring you like a fresh
yeah,
loaf of like banana bread or something. Or
totally. Totally. And
you know,
Anne has another lodge around the corner, Sunninghill Recovery Lodge, which she
yeah.
started first.
Yes.
And even the relationship between the two lodges has been such a nice example of community.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, when we just started, I mean, there was just so much we were learning, right? And to have
Yes.
someone close by to say, oh, do you have this for me? Or I don't know who to phone.
Yeah.
Even that was just incredible community, actually,
Sure.
rise together, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think that, even community like this, where we can just build a
Yeah.
relationship where we just share discussions. And I mean, like what I'm looking forward to as well is that I know now that if we have a client that has a serious illness, we can
Yeah.
refer them your way because they're protected in a space that's safe
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
people that actually have a holistic view on it and are not just, for example, out for profit
Yeah.
or stuff like that.
Exactly.
Because the non-profit side of your business is also very special. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like a whole holistic view. So I just wanted to thank you so much, Jodi, for your time.
Thank
If
you.
anyone wants to get hold of you, they can just follow your page on Instagram.
Yep.
Instagram's Zazen.
Yep.
And then also on your website. But yeah, thank you so much for making the time for us this morning. It's been awesome. Look forward to interacting in the future. And I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Dan. And yeah, really appreciate it and have a good day.
And you must say how's it to Ariana and Leanne. They're coming September.
Yes.
I'm going to tell them to find you.
Please do. I'll definitely be there.
Okay, awesome. Cheers, Jodi.